So by now you've seen that there's an abundance of evidence that proved me right about key facts. The right time to strike becomes a matter of God communicating it through the Pharaoh. Nobody but God knows the time. That includes Jesus or whoever Jesus was in the story, or if he was a real person or not, it doesn't really matter. The moral of the story is that Pharaoh conveys the time to strike. The reason why I'm wearing this at this time in the morning has to do with being fumed and so on. And I know it might look a little bit ridiculous, but I have to communicate effectively that I am from the sun temple and not the moon temple. And white was to take in the sun. And since there's that confusion, as people use white in the yin-yang, the checkered floor of masonry, and in various places to symbolize the moonlight and Luciferian light, I had to make this distinction. This is a very important video. I urge you to watch it 2, maybe 3 times. Listen very carefully. Watch once intensely taking notes. Watch again reviewing your notes as you listen. And watch again while you're multitasking or something, you know, for good measure. That's one suggestion. Okay. So syllable. You know, when I look at leopard, right? Draw, leap. Now this is backwards, yet using syllables to rearrange the words. And if the idea is correct, it's correct. And that's part of what helps me figure out the wordplay at times. Okay, if the idea is correct in the wordplay, then perhaps that word is meant to convey the idea, but again, it doesn't matter. Just like in the Bible, do these figures actually exist in time? It doesn't matter. This is the formula for getting to heaven in the story. The story's moral is more important. The moral of the wordplay is more important than whether or not these guys got together and did that wordplay themselves. That's their business. That's their problem. They're the experts of that nonsense and keeping the truth in regards to that to themselves. This is worldly garbage. The ideas come from above. They come from God. Okay, so draw, leap. Okay, draw on spiritual energy, leap. The leopard is in the process of becoming an animal that flies, right? He starts off being able to jump a little bit and he jumps higher, right? Jumps higher, what does that lead to? Huge leaping and flying. This is why the black man is said to jump better. Now, personally, I don't give a shit about race. I'm not even all black. I don't jump the highest. It is a combination of skills, and everyone has to find their rightful place in the divine order. Okay, what makes an angel isn't because he flies. It's because he moves in the spirit as a spiritual warrior. You know, what separates him from a fly, okay, or a flea? Obviously, he's in the true spirit. And we'll get into these things in a moment. Various ancient artifacts show leopards, which symbolize leopard society warriors and their potential wives in martial arts action. Some are said to be from Sumer, or at least somewhere in the Middle East. You know, they're labeled Sumer, they could be wrong. The Narmer palette, on the flip side, there's 2 sides of the coin, right? It shows these people separating, the followers of Set, separating the 2 leopard heads, and their necks are extended, showing their range, right? These are ways to symbolize range, and also ways to symbolize the cycle of rebirth, right? There's a circle. I'll put it at the end. There's the circle that their necks make and the fact that their necks are long. This represents the long-range strike and favoring the taller person. Now, again, when you think about it, right, a taller person jumps higher and touches higher. If he's tall and he jumps high and touches high versus a shorter person doing a little leap, right? You know, you go down to, you know, Willow Ofsgood. How high could Willow Ofsgood jump? Now, these things obviously are resented by the people who can't find that in themselves. If you can see that this person is Pharaoh, you're supposed to follow him. That's the difference between life and knowledge. You have to be in the divine order to find your way to heaven. So follow Pharaoh. See the light in him. If you can't see that I am Pharaoh and that you're supposed to stand with me, then you're doomed already. He who has an ear, let him hear. His heart, right? His ear. E-A-R. H the fence, T is the plus. Okay, the Narmer palette, pole at A, shows the smaller Middle Easterner and partially Lower Egyptian people building their reproductive temple and it being destroyed by the cattle cults or OBLA. Okay, Abel. Okay, so Abel is wordplay for OBLA. So when I redid the story, I wanted you to extract from it missing pieces from the story in the garden and to couple this together. Okay, so the bull that covers the light is the bad guy, regardless whose name is who. The guy, you know, the ideas that I'm getting at, Not, trying to be consistent with the Bible per se, but to correct it in a way that you can understand that it is a martial arts order. Okay, a bull of Heliopolis. This is another angle, with a question mark. Okay, is this the bull of Heliopolis part of this? When I look at the Narmer palette, certainly there is the bull that hands the Pharaoh his sword in truth, and there's the bull that's upside down, right? The bull that reveals the light, the bull that covers it up, okay, in darkness. I got you covered, right? Versus this is you yourself leading us. This is another angle to work besides the most high angle of Haru, thus the reasons why they were Horus kings. The bull that holds the light, not the one that covers it. The bull is a very masculine, ferocious animal, similar to the leopard. Remember, anime, cartoons, cartoonage, covering the face, the mask, right? So it's the animal in truth versus the wizard, draws out, draws on nonsense, draws on the con, okay? While the falcon is speed, grace, and intensity, right? The fool can versus the fool thinks he can, and the fool con, the fool that chooses the con. The lips but to be, the lips of Isis, are not preferable to the butt of Horus according to them, right? So the lips, this shows you traits, the gene expression, right? They have a fixation with race, not I. They do. I don't. Okay, their fixation is on race. These are black people who slept with our ancestors, and their lips are expressed sometimes through every race, so to speak. So is their butt, right? To be distinguished from a big person. A big fat person just is going to have a fat butt. It might be a big flat butt. It might be a big bubbly butt. There's a certain kind of curvature and pattern in the black African butt. And so since we're all Africans, we all come from Ethiopia, somewhere like that, right? You have to make this distinction. Okay. So the lips butt to be distinguished from a big person's butt were lusted for by the Sodom-like Moon Temple and their LGBT allies. These genes are expressed in various peoples, and the following list shows some wordplay of them. Now you have to understand that these are partial traits, right? It's a combination of things that was sought after by all Africans, and that is embodied by the Pharaoh. Okay. So let us look at some of the wordplay here. Okay. Hamster, right? The hamster. It is the hamster, but does it come out to be a leopard? No, it comes out to be some kind of a rodent. Okay, so even if you're from Ham and Shem in the Bible, so to speak, and Ham, Shem, and Japheth, if you're not a leopard, you're just a hamster, right? You're a hamster cult. Think about how people worship the planets, right? Mars as the martial artist, right? They're Martians because they're led by martial artists. That's why they come from, that's why they say aliens come from Mars, right? The people who follow Uranus, that gay group, right? They were called Uranians. These aren't literally aliens. These are people channeling, the moon energy, the planets and the stars. The celebrities are called stars, right? Celebrities, okay? Converse, all stars, right? And the stars represent the people in cults guiding everyone through the darkness when the sun has been eaten at E, right? It has been ate by Apep, and Set became synonymous with Apep, right? Remember Ramses the Great, his horse Victory at Thebes, okay? And where the Khan whore is, okay? So, oh yes, hamster also, when you apply the wordplay, is rats A. The M is the 13th letter, the hidden letter, the arc. The H is the fence, remove it. Rats A, the interchangeable vowels. Okay, so they didn't give me a fair shake. And they complained that Lucifer was kicked out of heaven unfairly. Obviously, they weren't fair. They didn't let me walk in the light, right? I'm the guy who walks in the light, who wants to reveal the truth. They want to cover it up so they can make themselves look good. Why don't black people have martial arts fair representation? If they did, it would almost certainly be some Kemet science bullshit, right? Integrated martial science. Get that garbage out of here. It ends after me, I assure you. I've gone over that time and time again. So what does it take to join the spirit? You have to be in the divine order, follow orders, right? The chain of command, right? The spiritual chain, Jacob's ladder, right? Women are positioned to take over. That's why the child is the new man, right? Hanuman in the Hindu culture, the John culture, John's Hindu. Okay, Hanuman. He's said to try to swallow the sun, and he gets a broken jaw, right? He couldn't add up to the martial arts transferable skills, And you know, and of course they try to do the role reversal and confuse you by drugging me and so on. It's the sparring match being won is what matters, not someone using excessive force and kind of breaking the rules and having me told time and time again they're not supposed to do that. Okay, so it doesn't matter, you know, if there's other people around, I back up a little bit, take a few quick steps back. Why? Because I don't want to get jumped by 4 people and all in sparring gloves on. You have to use insight, right? Okay, the women that come between you know, the women that choose the man, right? The new man is a child who didn't have the heart, right? The heart as the seat of intelligence. The heart is kind of like the brain of the soul, being disheartened versus knowing is not knowing to wait to strike. Well, you know to look to me to know when to strike, and I said, stand with me. Whoever doesn't stand with me doesn't go to heaven. That's all there is to it. All right, stand with me and follow orders. You know, with an emphasis on the attractive women, because be fruitful and multiply favors the attractive woman, a suitable helper. What was God's first command? Read Genesis. You know, they have a certain formula in the Bible for who's supposed to be in charge. They just confuse you about who it is. Saturn, role reversal, right? Cronus as the child of Uranus, and Uranus as the child of Jupiter. Okay, so speaking of Jupiter, did I go over bowl of Osiris? Okay, well, if we have time, we'll go over that. Okay. Okay, soul. All right. Let's see. Shy. So, why is someone shy? You know, because it has to do with their ability to sow their seed and how they perceive it in society. That's what makes them shy, right? If someone's a criminal and he's plotting to do something and he's not supposed to do it and people look down on him for it, right? He's supposed to feel nervous and shy and kind of out of place, right? So if you're doing the wrong thing in a world that is right, you're supposed to feel out of place. But when you're doing the right thing in a world that is wrong, you know, you're not supposed to feel out of place, and that shyness almost certainly in most cases is a result of you being a righteous person and everyone else being comfortable with doing the wrong thing because they've been bred to do the wrong thing and to live in a kind of dull society. Think about how European cultures have mystery schools and they keep everyone in the dark, whereas African martial arts cultures initiate men together and everyone walks in the light to a certain degree and they understand why to follow the leader. All right, the true leader. So it has to do with comfort level and so on. Okay. Anaconda, chokehold, the women's wear the black choker. Okay. The X, how do you draw a pyramid? You make this kind of, it's spun, you know, this square. It's not drawn like this. It's drawn like at an angle, an angled square, and you draw an X. That's how you draw like a basic pyramid on a piece of paper. And that goes back to the Chi Ra versus the Ka. Okay. Face your age. There was something in the wordplay here that came to face your age. So econ o me, right? Econ o e, you know, that's the economy, right? It favors the E. The IQ backwards is the key. Latino versus Latina, right? Some were hawks, some were serpents. You know them by their works. Perhaps some of these bigger guys, bigger boned, are E's. The Portuguese, or excuse me, the Spanish and Europeans who bred with them. And the smaller ones are more agile, are more like the hawks to a certain degree, and they're supposed to be on my side. It doesn't slice it that way definitively, right? It's a combination of things, not just being big alone and so on. There's different ways people come to that. Anyway, and at the end of the day, they're all supposed to be on my side. I'm almost out of time, so let me just get to Jupiter. So the thick, you know, the Mexicans, I went over that. Rape is consensual sex, right? Who gets the woman, right? It's the one who's more like the European, and so it is in the black community, culturally, genetically, and so on. Okay, so let's go over Jupiter. He's the god of the sky, the god of daylight, the god of the weather, thunder, lightning. He assisted Romulus in driving back the Sabines. Remember the rape of the Sabines, right? These are rapes of people who are similar to them. The Sabines weren't that far from the other people like the Etruscans and the other types of Romans, okay? They weren't that far from them. So it's the same idea with the Native Americans, same idea with black people, same idea with every race. Within your race, there's different factions, there's different ethnic groups, and there's different cultural groups within ethnic groups and different spirits and so on, because people mix together even within different ethnic groups. They've been raped and so on. So these people are raping you by confusing you about who you should be with. I can't stress that enough. He established a center at the spot for where he first asked for Jupiter's assistance, right? That's where Romulus established Jupiter's temple, where he asked for assistance in raping the Sabines, and they won. Okay, his temple on the Capitol, Jupiter was seen as the supreme power, whose priest Flamindalis was married to the priestess of Juno. Flame in, flow in, die as. Wolf is flow backwards. Okay, let me get to the important part. Okay, the establishment of a capital similar to that of Rome in every provincial city affirmed, basically.